We have almost reached all of the quarterfinals at this year's French Open. As everyone who has been following the tournament has heard, of course, we have seen the biggest shock of the tournament very early in the second round when the world number one Jannik Sinner lost to Juan Manuel Cerundolo from 2-0 up after being up 5-1 in the third set. He only needed to win one more game to advance to the third round, but his body completely gave up and he couldn't do that. So he ended up losing that third set 7-5, losing 6 games in a row. And then he lost the next 2 sets 6-1, 6-1. So he basically couldn't move after going up 5-1. And I was very surprised at this, of course, just like everybody else was. Pretty much everybody was expecting Jannik Sinner to win the tournament, as was I. And even as I was watching this match, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. He was so close to advancing. It's amazing how he couldn't win one more game from 5-1, but he really just couldn't move, couldn't do anything. So Cerundolo took his chance and just physically outlasted him. But what I was really surprised at is that he was never able to regain his stamina. I thought that as maybe he will lose the third set and come back in the fourth set and get some more energy. Then he lost the fourth set. I said maybe he will get some more energy in the fifth set and win this. I just didn't think that he would never recover and never get enough energy to start moving again and start actually doing something. But he just never did. He could never really get back into the match, which was surprising. Even when he went down 3-love in the final set, I still said to myself, he can still win. I still believe that he could win. But then when he went down 1-5, love 40, I said he will probably lose. And he did. So since then, the tournament got vastly more interesting. With that single match, it went from being the most boring tournament of all time to the most interesting tournament of all time, because we didn't know who was going to win. At that point, Djokovic was the only Grand Slam champion that was left in the draw. But then the tournament got arguably even more interesting because Djokovic lost in the third round the day after Jannik Sinner lost. Djokovic, he lost to the 19-year-old João Fonseca from Brazil, making it Djokovic's first loss to a teenager in a Grand Slam. The first time that he failed to reach the quarterfinals at the French Open since 2009, which is pretty insane. And it was also his second ever loss from 2-0 up. His first loss was also in the French Open in 2010, when he lost in the semifinals to Jürgen Meltzer, that Austrian guy. And so this was only his second match that he ever lost from 2-0 up. So when Djokovic lost, every single player in the draw has now never won a Grand Slam before, meaning that it guaranteed that we will have a new Grand Slam champion, which makes this tournament interesting because the last time that we had a new Grand Slam champion was in the 2024 Australian Open when Jannik Sinner won his first Grand Slam title. And that tournament was actually kind of interesting because you didn't really know who was going to win until the last match, and the final was actually an exciting final as well. But since then, the tournaments have not been super interesting because every single time they're being won by Sinner and Alcaraz. But now we will have a new champion after 2 full years of Grand Slam tournaments that have been won only by Sinner and Alcaraz. And they have won the last 9 Grand Slam tournaments in a row, which I believe is the second longest streak in history of 2 players winning all the Grand Slams. The longest was when Rafael Nadal and Roger Federer won every Grand Slam from the 2005 French Open to the 2007 US Open. They won all of those Grand Slams, Federer and Nadal, so that was 11 Grand Slams in a row for almost 3 years. So Sinner and Alcaraz have actually not broken that streak. And while we are talking about streaks, of course, Sinner has lost his 30-match winning streak that he was on. So he will not surpass Novak Djokovic's 43-match winning streak, at least for the time being. Of course, I'm very happy about that because I'm a Djokovic fan. And now, of course, Sinner is still missing the French Open. That is the only big tennis tournament that he has not won because the Olympics does not count as a big tennis tournament. So Sinner is still 1 tournament away from completing tennis, and he probably will win the French Open at least once in his career, but he will have to wait at least a year. So this is a big problem for Sinner, his physical problems in hot weather especially. The fact that he could not win one single game from 5-1 really shows how big of an issue this is for him, and he will have to figure out how to deal with that in the future. Some people are also saying that this was the collective toll of winning a million matches in a row. That could have been part of the case as well, but that's kind of weird how he just hit a physical wall as soon as he was 1 game away from winning the match. But anyway, now we are in the quarterfinals, and we have all 8 players. Technically, there is 1 quarterfinal match that is still going on right now, which is in the 3rd set, which is between Francis Tiafoe and Matteo Arnaldi. That match is still going on. But we will have 8 players in the quarterfinals who have never won a Grand Slam. And only 2 of these players have reached a Grand Slam final before, which are Matteo Berrettini and Alexander Zverev. Matteo Berrettini has reached 1 Grand Slam final at Wimbledon in 2021, and Alexander Zverev has reached 3 Grand Slam finals at the US Open in 2020, here at the French Open in 2024, and at the Australian Open in 2025. So those are the only 2 players left in the draw who have reached Grand Slam finals in their careers. So in this video, I'm only going to predict the 2 quarterfinal matches from the bottom half of the draw, which will be played tomorrow. And after those matches complete, or sometime tomorrow night, I will predict the 2 quarterfinals from the top half of the draw in another video. So to talk about the 2 quarterfinals in the bottom half of the draw, first we will have the 2nd seed Alexander Zverev taking on the young Spaniard, 19-year-old Rafael Jódar from Spain. And many people are saying that, well, first I want to say something about Djokovic. Actually, I will say it when I talk about the next quarterfinal. So, Alexander Zverev, of course, he is the 2nd seed of this tournament. He is the world number 3, because Carlos Alcaraz is still injured, of course. And now many people are saying that this is Zverev's tournament to lose, and everything is lining up for Zverev to win. And if Zverev doesn't win this tournament, he will never win a Grand Slam. And some people are even acting like Zverev will definitely win this unless he chokes. But that is not saying much, because they are also saying that he is known for choking everything. So Zverev is the favorite to win this tournament right now, because he is just the highest ranked player and the player who has been to multiple Grand Slam finals. and who has achieved probably more than all of the other players left in the draw combined. That is not an exaggeration. So Zverev is definitely the favorite according to most people and according to what he has achieved in his ranking to win this title. Do I believe that he will win this title? No. I think that he will choke. He has shown himself to choke multiple times, most especially in that US Open final in 2020 when he was 2 sets to love up and also 1 game away from winning the match in the 5th set, and he choked. And he has choked many times in his career, like he did in this year in the Australian Open against Carlos Alcaraz in the semifinals, where he was also 1 game away from winning the match, but he choked. Then also in the French Open 2024, he didn't really choke there, to be honest. He just got outplayed in the last 2 sets. But he lost from 2 sets to 1 up. He did still lose. But to be fair, that wasn't really that big of a choke because he just got outplayed in the last 2 sets. But Zverev has shown that he, in general, throughout his career, not just in big matches, but also in big matches as well, when he gets in the big moments, he becomes too passive. He doesn't trust his shots, especially his forehand. His forehand is definitely by far his weaker side because his backhand, he has one of the best backhands in the world. When he gets into the big moments, he gets tight, he gets nervous, and he starts to just push the ball. And when you come up against other players who are more content to be aggressive and take the initiative in the points, that will not work, especially in the later stages of Grand Slams. So that is why Zverev has never won a Grand Slam, and he will never win one. I believe that he will never win one. Of course, I can be wrong, and he can prove me wrong on Sunday and win this title. But for now, I will still hold that he will never win a Grand Slam title because he hasn't shown that he has it in him. And I may have said this before, that I believe that he will never win a Grand Slam title. But if I did or not, I'm going to stick to what I have said, even if I have not said it on this channel. I'm going to stick to what I said, that he will never win a Grand Slam. But will he win this quarterfinal match against Rafael Jódar, the 19-year-old Spaniard who is getting hyped because he has leapt up in the rankings in the past year? Yes, I do believe that he will win this. I do believe that he will win this quarterfinal match. And actually, I believe that he will win it in straight sets, which some people may think is a bit of a bold prediction because Jódar, he is getting hyped. He has a big game, and people are calling him the next big thing. But I don't believe that he will now go in his first French Open that he has ever played and defeat the world number 3 Alexander Zverev in the quarterfinals. He has already done a tremendous job on his French Open debut to reach the quarterfinals, but I think his journey ends here. First of all, he has never defeated a top 10 player in a Grand Slam, which we cannot blame him for because he has barely played any Grand Slams in his career. This is maybe only his 2nd Grand Slam. So for him to come in his 2nd Grand Slam of his career, his first French Open of his career, and just immediately go to the semifinals and defeat the world number 3, that would be insane. That would be a little bit too much to ask. So I think that his journey will end here, and he will lose to Alexander Zverev in straight sets. And also, Alexander Zverev has spent much less time on court than Rafael Jódar. Rafael Jódar's last 2 matches were 5-set matches. I think they both lasted about 4 hours. And Zverev, on the other hand, he has only lost 1 set in his 4 matches. So I think that Zverev will be more fresh, and he just has far more experience than Rafael Jódar. So that's why I think Zverev wins this quarterfinal match in straight sets. Now for the other quarterfinal match from the bottom half of the draw, we have João Fonseca, the 19-year-old Brazilian, who will be taking on Jakub Menšík, the 20-year-old from Czechia. Who do I believe will win this match? I believe that Fonseca will win this match. I think he is a better clay court player than Menšík. He has won a title on clay. Menšík has never won a title on clay before. I think both players can be tired here because they have both spent a lot of time on court. They have both played 2 5-set matches, I believe. Fonseca has come back from 2 sets to love down in both the second round against Dino Prismic and, of course, in the third round against Novak Djokovic. And to say something about Novak Djokovic real quick. Of course, I am a Djokovic fan. And of course I was very happy when Sinner lost in the second round because I did not want this to be a very boring tournament where he just destroys everybody and there is no challenge. So I found it much more interesting when he lost and we said we will get a new winner who is not named Sinner and not named Alcaraz. But then Djokovic lost right after. But was I upset? I was a little bit upset, but I was not super upset. Because I was not saying to myself that as soon as Sinner lost, this is an auto win for Djokovic. I knew that it would still be extremely difficult, even with Sinner out of the tournament, for Djokovic to win this tournament. Because he is 39 years old. And it is not easy for anyone who is 39 years old to win a Grand Slam tournament, especially the French Open, which is on clay, where the rallies are longer, it is a more physical surface. And let us not forget that the oldest ever Grand Slam champion was 36 or 37 years old. I believe it was Ken Rosewall. So no one who is 39 years old has ever won a Grand Slam tournament. So I definitely didn't think this would be a free win for Djokovic now that Sinner was out. And of course it was not, because he lost right after Sinner, 1 round later than Sinner. But anyway, to talk about Fonseca. Fonseca has won 2 5-set matches in this tournament. Just like Menšík. Menšík won his second round and his last match in the 4th round, both in 5 sets. So I think both of these players can be a little bit tired. And this maybe will come down to who is fresher. But more than that, I think Fonseca is just a better clay court player than Menšík. He just defeated Casper Ruud, who is a 3-time Grand Slam finalist, 2-time finalist at the French Open. He defeated Casper Ruud in 4 sets. That is more impressive than... And he has also defeated Djokovic, who is, of course, a 3 times French Open champion and the greatest tennis player of all time. So Fonseca has defeated much higher quality opponents than what Menšík has done. The highest quality opponent that Menšík has defeated is probably Andrei Rublev, whom he just defeated in the 4th round. But Rublev is not even as good of a clay court player as Casper Ruud. Rublev is not as good of a clay court player as Novak Djokovic, of course. So Fonseca has beaten better players, and he has also accomplished more on clay. And because of this, he didn't actually look that tired in his last match, at least. He only started to look a little bit tired in maybe the 4th set, or maybe the end of the 3rd set. Overall, I don't think he actually looked that tired. So, I think that Fonseca will win this match in 4 sets. And I think we will have a semi-final from the bottom half of the draw between the 2nd seed Alexander Zverev and the Brazilian, the 28th seed João Fonseca.